That is the new old Herc skin that you guys, again, if you win 10 games in the month of August, you will get that skin and the voice pack by Kevin Sorbo.
Which means directly that Kelly will not be getting the skin.
It's because she doesn't win games, right?
Thanks, Adanas.
Okay. I'm just here, you know, I'm just trying to make sure that everyone understands that you have to win 10 games. You can't just lose 30 in a row, Kelly.
Oh, we have 25 more minutes of this. Great. So the next promotion that we're going to be talking about, or maybe not so much a promotion, but event, we've been going to Gamescom for the past few years, and we're going to be this year as well, and we're going to be showing off our fantasy shooter there.
Pretty exciting stuff.
It's going to be really exciting. I don't know if either of you have been able to play the game, but it's a lot of fun. So we're going to be showcasing that there, and I believe we're also going to have the first 2 games of the fall split.
Yes, we're going to be debuting the first matchup for the fall split. It's going to be Fnatic and Titan live at Gamescom, and it's going to be, I believe, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so we're going to be showing a lot of stuff off, and it's going to be another LAN. It's just going to be like how we had AFK and Cloud9 here in hi-rez Studios. This time we'll have the European teams live in Europe.
Oh, well, that's going to be really exciting, and I'm sure you guys are really excited for that. But we got a few more promotions to talk about before we get into talking about set 1. First is alphadraft.com, and Kevin, I know that you're going to be able to talk about this a little bit better than I am, so
Yes.
take it away.
AlphaDraft is going to be your source for all fantasy Smite. You go on the site, alphadraft.com, you sign up, and you can play for multiple things. You can play for free, you can play for giveaways, and you can play to win money as well. So you sign up, and it's your chance, you know, and it's daily too. It's not, you know, that's the big thing with a lot of fantasy leagues is that it's all fun and games at the start of it, but, you know, 3-4 weeks, there's, you know, half of your league's in it, the other half isn't. It's not as exciting. This is all daily, so you're going to be able to sign up, and you can sign up for this tournament as well, and it's going to be locking just as the game kicks off at 1 p.m., so make sure to get your team signed up and get everyone ready. So it's only going to be the 4 teams that are here for today, but tomorrow it'll be a different set of 4 teams that you're going to be able to create your league with.
You know, I actually, in the Juice community, there's a member named Agdros. He's actually local to Georgia. He won the first fantasy league.
Oh, that's right, I heard.
And then he took top 10 for season 2. I would really, like, if all the people out there that I know that are into this stuff, man, it's you. I know you can win this.
And that's alphadraft.com. And something that you're probably going to be a little bit more excited about is Smite.clothing is having 20% off of all of their clothing this weekend. Brandon, I know you're a big fan of clothing.
I am.
Is there any shirts that you're looking forward to purchasing?
Personally, I actually really like the Hindu shirt.
The Pantheon?
The Hindu Pantheon.
It's really nice.
The light blue with the pink.
I've actually got like 3 copies of it.
Yeah, so Adonis, your entire wardrobe is mostly these bona fide clothing.
I live with the guy. I mean, what are you going to say? I mean, I'm just like, hey, Brad, I'll do stuff for you. Where's my free shirt?
He knocks on his door. I don't know how to do laundry. I need 7 new shirts.
Which one's your favorite shirt from Bonafide?
I actually do like the Hindu Pantheon. There's some really cool ones as well. The Zhonghui and Freya ones that came out. There's Pixel Buster Freya and the Zhonghui Demon Catcher.
I really like the Zhonghui
The skin ones
well.
are pretty cool as well.
And there's a few Amir ones as well. Also, one last promotion, everyone, is that Team Chess are going to be 200 gems this weekend. All of them are available.
Right.
And the same contribution is still going to the prize pool. So if you guys haven't been able to support your favorite team, or maybe you just want to support esports in general, they are now 200 gems instead of 300, I believe.
And all are available as well. It's you know, we were spacing them. Now everything is available for this weekend.
I'm 100% for supporting all the teams equally. You know, as a commentator, I try to be as non-biased as possible. But if you don't own Titan Vulcan, like you're free, like straight up, you're just free. That is the coolest skin.
Snoopy is actually no, I'm not allowed to say that. I can't say Snoopy is free. So ignore what I just said. They wouldn't let me watch their scrims otherwise.
Oh.
So I didn't just say that.
You didn't, not at all. So the first set that we got going on today, guys, is Cloud9 G2A versus Paradigm. It's going to be a really exciting match, but I guess something that we should start off with is that it's not going to be Cloud9's full roster.
It's a big turn. Barracuda, unfortunately, is very sick. He can't make it. It's not a thing where it's like, I don't want to play. Barracuda is actually very sick and cannot come here. So they're going to have their coach, Makey. He's going to be subbing in.
I told them not to go out to eat last night and eat fast food. I told them.
He's sick, right? So they're going to have Makey subbing in. But the big thing here is also Mackie, Omega is going to be playing Hunter, and Mackie is going to be playing solo. And Mackie does have experience in the solo lane with Enemy Esports from last split.
Well,
so Brandon, you're a...
Yeah, not only did we see Mackie have his best performance in the split in the solo lane, but he beat Divios's pre-nerf Bologna with tier, which is incredible by itself. But I heard, you know, I was talking a little bit to Jeff Hinla, and he was talking about how Mackie not only has subbed in for them for like some casual tournaments and a few matches, but has blown people away in scrims. This guy has more than enough talent to maybe not completely fill Barracuda's shoes, but he should be able to compete on this world stage against Paradigm.
So you have Omega that's going to be over in the Hunter, and he's going to be going up against Funballer. How is that gonna change up Funballer's play style? What is Omega going to play as a Hunter?
I think Omega will be fine. He jousts a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean, if this guy isn't scrimming, he's normally playing 1v1 joust even on his stream. And one of his favorite matchups is on her. I think we're going to see that god either banned out or picked up by him. And his on her is so good that Barracuda is afraid to 1v1 him and joust with it.
It's
Really?
funny, at the last split, I tried to like orchestrate them having to play, and Annenster and Jeff both said that they will pull their team from the tournament before allowing them to joust, because if Barracuda loses to Omega, he's just going to play like garbage for the rest of the season. Like, we're not going to deal with this. We're not going to deal with the dissension in the ranks. There's no way that we're allowing this to happen. We're just going to let it rock. But we talked about this. Not only did he joust nonstop for months, but Omega was also a Hunter player when he was on Snipe way back
Oh, yeah,
in 2013.
like season 1, or early season 1.
0.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was before the launch tournament. I mean, Stealth was actually his support at that time. Like, that's how far back it was.
Oof.
Stealth played, it was not a pretty look, and they moved him back to mid real quick. But Omega was pretty proficient as a Hunter. So he's had success, even though it's been a while. And I think with his experience on Joust, it's going to be able to fill. And I do like the lane swap, and I think that's important here, is that putting Mackie in Hunter would be rough for them. Funball would definitely look to abuse it. It's not a role he's familiar with. But
Okay.
Omega, he can fill it, and Mackie is a proficient solo laner, like Brandon said.
Well, let's talk
I
a
think
little.
it's not bad.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Mr. Mackey going up against Zalia, who is the MVP for solo lane in EU. That's a really difficult matchup. Do you think that they're going to have the jungle watch his lane a lot, or do you think that Zalia is going to play a little different in the solo lane because he's going up against Mackey?
It's going to be interesting. I think they're going to put him on some fairly safe solo laners. I don't think they're going to go too intricate. I think they're going to stick to a very Guardian-oriented playstyle, probably some safe ones, some Tier Bellona, Hades, something that they've practiced and played in the past.
That's true. Brandon, you're really big in the solo lane. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think we're going to see an odd pick or maybe a safe pick like what Adanas said?
Well, Zalia is known to have a lot of odd picks. Mackie is more the straight-up warrior type in the lane. I think the big thing to worry about is the fact that the jungle presence and mid presence in the solo lane has become a lot more relevant since the Gold Fury change. And since actually the wards being smaller as well in terms of vision control, it's a lot easier for them to rotate. And realistically, if I was on Paradigm, I would be looking to rotate to that solo lane non-stop and just put as much pressure onto Mackie to see if he'll crack.
Well, let's talk about the jungle then, as they are the ones that are rotating constantly. It's going to be Andenster versus Cuvo Fred, and Andenster is an amazing jungle. He also got named the MVP for North American Jungle, and he's going up against Cuvo Fred. How do you feel their, Brandon, how do you feel their jungle roles differ? Do they play differently, or do they still play the same style? Especially now with the changes that happened the past few patches,
Right.
Jungling seems a lot different and very complicated.
For me, the meta is, of course, shifted a lot. The lack of Hand of the Gods in the current meta has been very strange. Players are still kind of becoming acclimated to the fact that their clear has to change based on God and not just based on what items you build. With that, though, I'm more worried about Andenster turning into Landenster, which has been his unfortunate alter ego when he shows up to land. Sometimes Andy just doesn't show up. The one time that we saw him break out of that persona was, luckily for him, the world stage where he won his team of $1.3 million. The big thing here, though, is that he's not going to have that same level of communication that he's used to with Omega in the early game, but with the early meta shifts, there might not be too much communication necessary depending on what camps they decide to start with. Zalia, on the other hand, comparatively to Cubo Fred, Cubo likes to sit in mid all day. Him and Lobster are like joined at the hip, so this meta works out really well for them. Constantly splitting jungle camps, not really rotating too much to solo or duo.
Would you say that's why Cubo Fred has a lower KDA compared to Andenster?
I think their play styles are different as well. I mean, Cubo Fred is very frontline. I think one of the most successful games I think we've seen him on is when he actually earned the MVP for the week. I believe it was week 5 or 6. But he played Cabrakan. And Cubo Fred likes to be in the fights. Andenster likes to kind of go in a little bit afterwards, doesn't like to initiate. Cubo Fred will be the first one in, and he will stand as tall as he can. So we do see him take a couple spills, maybe not get as many kills, but he does set up Lobster a lot.
Yeah.
Is that why Andy usually plays more aggressive junglers, whereas Cuvo will probably play a bit more tanky people like Cabrakan or someone?
Yeah, I think we're going to be seeing that a lot. It's going to be interesting, though. But, I mean, Cuvo, and we talked about it as well, Cuvo in Season 1 really liked Freya and some Nemesis as well. And those picks are looking much stronger.
Girls with weapons.
Girls with weapons, just like Kiki can't play guy characters, girls with weapons. But those characters are much stronger in this current meta where it's more of a stalematy time. And even if they're fighting, they don't get too far behind. So players are willing to play these riskier hyper carries.
Do you think that they would pick Freya because she's magical? Because there seems to be a lot of hunters that are still positioned. I see Neath still played in the mid lane sometimes. Do you think we're going to see that where there's maybe 2 hunters still, Brandon?
It's possible. They need to be very wary of major auto attack comps or characters that are relying a lot on attack speed, because people are still so used to that hunter meta that we thankfully are very much out of now, that people are still very aware of items like Frostbound Hammer, Witchblade, Midgardian Mail, things like Odin Cages, anything that slows attack speeds are very important in this meta. So if they go into a Freya with double Hunter, it's going to put too much pressure, even Kronos with double Hunter, or even Kronos Freya Hunter. I mean, there's too much attack speed in those comps. Kali attack speed's really big right now, and I'm definitely expecting to see her this weekend as well.
Yeah, you were talking about that earlier, that you guys said that you're going to see Kali. Why do you think we're going to see a lot of her this weekend?
I don't think bugged is the right word. It's just maybe like misinterpreted. Someone wrote the tooltip when she first got reworked as flat penetration to the target, which apparently wasn't true.
Blame Pompon.
Pompon. He's over there.
It's his fault.
He figured out that apparently it's been percent penetration the whole time, which changes things.
Yeah.
This allows Kali to build into Executioner and Titan's Bane for additive percent bonuses, stacking up to 87% penetration with 3 items online. Girdle of Might brings it up to 97%, making it effectively true damage, making her very scary. And since she has so much damage just with those items, she can build into Fatalis, which is great considering Sprint is just no longer in the meta.
Well, if you guys are just joining us right now, we are on the pre-show for the Summer Finals LAN, powered by Cursed Voice, and I'm joined here by DM Brandon and Adanas, and I believe we have about 15 minutes more to go before we get into Game 1, which is Cloud9 G2A versus Paradigm. Now, let's talk a little bit more focused on the picks and bans of this game. Gentlemen, what bans do you think we're going to see outright for this set?
Ao Kuang.
Ao Kuang. Both of you said Ao Kuang at the same time.
I knew he wanted to say it, so I said it before.
I mouthed it.
Ao Kuang. I mean,
Right.
Ao Kuang has really come to fruition, I'd say, at the end of the summer split before these meta changes. And I think certain teams and players knew it for a while, but they kind of kept it a little bit secret. We saw Cyclone Spin busted out in the spring finals to great effect in the solo
He didn't
lane.
know what he was doing. He just like, I want to play this god.
But he figured it out real fast.
Yeah, he did. Oh, man. The character, if he gets through bans, I'm going to assume a team is trolling.
Really?
I think he is the best character in the game by a margin.
Or they have something lined up for
Right,
it.
or they have some crazy strategy that no one else has figured out. But I'm going to just run to my original assumption of they're trolling.
Well, Adonis, what would be a good counter for Ao Kuang?
A lot of dot gods are very good. One of the strengths of Ao Kuang, especially now in the current meta with no hog needed for junglers, is that he can blink in and then use his water illusion to escape if it gets a little bit risky. And dotting him up, when he takes damage, he breaks that. So when Agni's passive, Kali, the 2 does a lot of dot damage as well. So anything Aphrodite.
Oh, sorry.
Anything that does dot damage, that's going to be able to pop him out of stealth very quickly so that you can chase him down.
Fair enough. Well, support-wise, do you think we're going to see any support bans? I saw for Trix and for Jeff that Geb and Sylvanas are both their top picks. So do you think we're going to see a Geb or Sylvanas ban?
Both.
Both?
I'm expecting both, yeah.
It's likely.
I mean, there's still the threat of Hercules, of course. Trix Tank has been playing him all through the season 2.
But here's the thing. He played him in the spring split. Summer split, they kind of let up, and that might have been intentional as well. The thing with LAN is that a lot of teams, I wouldn't say they don't want to try their hardest, but they'll leave pocket picks to surprise people. And Hercules, it was banned almost exclusively at the end of the spring split because of how good Trix was with it, and they didn't play it at all for the summer split, but maybe once, I believe.
Maybe it's like you said, maybe it's by design. Maybe they're looking to maybe not increase his god pool, because Trix by all means does not need to increase god pool. He's incredible. But maybe veer them in a different direction. You know, say like, we haven't played this in a while. We're focusing on Geb and Sylvanas. Let them ban that and see if we can get Hercules. It's possible.
Well, do you think that we're going to see any different support picks because of the changes to Hunters, that Mr. Mackey is going to be played? Maybe Funballer and Trixtank are going to feel a bit more confident and maybe play a more aggressive support role?
We've seen the occasional Sobek come out.
Yeah.
Sobek's always aggressive, but he's also risky because if you do miss your charge prey, you get put in a bad spot.
Yeah.
So as strong and as aggressive as Sobek is, it's very risky if you miss that real critical ability. But it has been played by Jeff once. He did lose, but I mean, I can't remember. It was like an off week for them.
Well, maybe
it was against Eager.
Brandon, maybe you can answer this for me. Athena used to be really big in Season 1 and at the start of Season 2, but she's kind of fallen off. What happened
I don't
to
know
her?
about all that.
Well,
She's not first pick anymore. She's picked generally.
She was always first pick,
but yeah,
though.
she was first pick for quite some time.
What happened?
Honestly, I don't think anything happened. I think she's just as strong as she was. Taunt remains the best non-ultimate ability in the game, maybe tied with Get Shield.
I'd say that.
Right? Her initiations are incredible. In fact, given the fact that Hog is less important, giving her Blink on top of Preemptive Strike, it's not fun. It's not fun to fight.
So you say that Hog isn't important, but it's obviously still a pivotal part of the gameplay. But how has Hog's change affected the way that especially Gold Furies and Fire Giants are taken?
I mean, I wouldn't say that the Hog change. I mean, the Hog change was big, and I think it slowed down invades. You know, only being able to hit a limited number of cramps and creeps. But it's really the Gold Fury and Fire Giant changes and the percentage change. Before, where it was 25%, where it was at 25%, if you don't have Hog and the other support does, it's getting stolen.
Yeah.
Now it's within 1,000, or it's 900 damage right now. On the we're not playing on that patch.
Oh.
Yeah, it's going to be the patch that has 900 true damage, not 1,000.
Got it.
And Gold Fury as well is going to be starting at 100 gold, not 150.
Ooh, if it's still that patch, that means Bastet is maybe not a viable pick here. Hand of the Gods on this patch should affect all 3 cats.
It's possible.
And it's instant death at level 1.
So you don't think we're going to see any Bastet?
With that, I mean, I didn't know that we were playing on this patch. Then absolutely, I would assume that Bastet stays out of these games.
Out of these games as in banned, or out of these games
just
as in
not
played?
picked. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Likely.
It's too dangerous.
Now, how is the contention with Gold Fury fights? Do you think that they're earlier now? Are they later? Is it more highly contended? Or do players seem to kind of be afraid of the Gold Fury now that Hog has changed?
I think it's a twofold process. I think some teams are a little bit afraid of it, but really it's that teams are not worried about contesting it, because now if you contest it and you lose Gold Fury, it's 100 gold, it's 500 gold for the enemy team at the start, but you're not wiping. Before it was, all right, this Gold Fury is worth so much, we have to protect it. Then you take fights that really weren't in your favor, you lose Gold Fury and you get wiped, and that was part of the massive snowball. Now it's like, all right, we can give up Gold Fury. We don't have to worry about it too much.
600 gold's not going to kill us at this stage of the game.
All right, so we talked a little bit about jungle earlier and the picks and bans. Do you think that we're going to see any specific picks and bans for the jungle role? Any Thor going to be banned? Fenrir maybe? Kabrakan, as you said?
Dude, Fen is strong.
Fen is good.
Fen is a good jungler. He's an okay support. He's an okay mid, and he's one of the best solo laners. His flex pick is through the roof right now. Oh, probably even stronger than Athena's, which is nuts. So, I mean, I definitely see him being a very popular pick this
He's
weekend.
also a very hard counter matchup to Ratatoskr, which we're likely to see picked up or banned very often.
That's a nightmare
One
matchup.
frustrating thing about Ratatoskr is how many dashes he gets. You know, when he dashes through a person, he resets his dash and he gets another cooldown. But the dash is not super long, and Brutalize will actually chase you through all of them. So if Ratatoskr is picked up, I am going to be blown away if Fenrir is not immediately picked up in response.
Yeah.
Do you feel with the recent changes to the meta that a lot of gods now fit in more roles, such as Fenrir being able to play in mid or Neith being able to play in solo? Do you think that that has reverted back since the changes, or it's even more diverse now?
I personally think that a lot of the mages return to solo lane. Characters like Janus, Aphrodite become a lot more valuable. Chang'e, that bunny though.
A little bit. Some people.
That bunny's not a joke.
Oh yeah, the buff. Oh, but is that with this patch?
Oh no, wait, I don't think
not.
it is.
No, the bonus like 25% movement speed on it. I don't think
rip.
so.
What are you gonna do?
Well, any other niche picks you think we're going to see with Cloud9 or Paradigm? Anything that they play that maybe the other teams don't?
Paradigm's hard to call. I mean, Paradigm is the team that first brought out like Kabrakan and a Wheelish and Nemesis in the solo lane. Like, they are willing to experiment. Cloud9, on the other hand, usually do the tried and true picks, although they were the people that brought Scylla back, the people that brought AMC back.
Yes.
Although I never really understood why Scylla was gone to begin with.
No one did.
She just
Do you think
wins.
we're gonna see-
She just wins the game.
Do you think Stealth is going to bring Scylla back?
It's very likely we'll see Scylla, and I think
Janus.
Giannis as well. That was actually, I think, his best god for the split. He was 6-6 with it. One thing about Cloud9 is they do not like ISIS at all.
Yeah.
It was banned 13 of the
wow.
16 games they've played recently, and
Is that the control that she offers? Why are they afraid of her?
they just don't like playing against. I believe it was Aninster who doesn't like it, not so much stealth. He doesn't like, because Aninster likes to sit in mid, and it's very hard to gank an ISIS in mid because she has so many options to control you, and if you full commit on her and she drops her circle of protection, you can very realistically get turned on in a gank that looked fairly free at the start.
Yeah.
Well,
Not to mention her clear is insanely free.
Yeah.
Like, she clears for free. She has great late game control. And even if you do gank her repeatedly, she can turn into a support type mage with all of her control.
Kiki,
Yeah.
most notably, does that.
Kiki, Boosh tried it. Didn't work out as much.
Because Boosh just likes killing people. Don't put Boosh on any role outside of I'm going to do damage and kill the other person. And it's usually all 5 of them.
so the winner of this is going to be going up against Titan,
Right.
the second place team from the World Championships and the first seeded team from EU. Now, which team do you think here has a bigger or a better advantage? Is it Paradigm from EU where they face a bit more, or maybe they need a team like Cloud9 who they lost to in the World Championships?
That's an interesting question. I think Cloud9 versus Titan would probably be the most hype match, rematch from Worlds. But Paradigm are no joke, and I mean, Paradigm did best Titan during the summer split. They have their number, and Titan's kind of like the Achilles heel to North American teams. I don't know what it is, but they just seem to like really surprise NA teams, and they can't handle it.
It's funny. I said to Omega, we're talking about Titan. He seems very confident against it. And I'm like, didn't you lose to Ares? And he's like, I didn't lose to Ares. They lost to Ares.
So why was Ares such a weird pick for them, and why did it throw them for a
Because
loop?
they don't ever play against it.
Yeah, Ares hadn't been in the meta for a good year and a half at that point. So the proper control against Ares is he does the no escape ult, gets the chains in everyone and, goes up into the air and raises his fist in glory. And what you're supposed to do is kill him, right? You just rush him down and try to kill him before everything goes off. And they were so just not used to playing against this character anymore that instead of trying to kill him, they were just like, oh my god, run away! And then they got pulled in and died a lot.
So you don't think we're going to see that from Trix Tank? You're not going to see a
Oh,
weird pick?
Ares will play, or excuse me, Trix will play Ares. I think we're going to see weird picks from both teams, most notably because the meta change. Another thing too, with hyper carries, we could see some Hubwall come back as well.
Ooh.
It's not only the fact that the games are going later and these players don't have to worry about getting behind early, but it's also the fact that with no Hog, there's a lot more actives to protect your team. You're seeing more Heavenlies, more Shells, more Blinks. You can get out of situations where in the old meta you wouldn't be able to.
I don't think Cloud9 will ever play Hubble again.
Okay, maybe not them. I'm just saying those are some of the guys we might see.
Cloud9, their roster when it used to be Cog Prime at Worlds, they played Habwa in the jungle, and Andy went like a bajillion and 0 2 games in a row, and they lost
that was
both games.
Not fun.
It was really
Put
upsetting.
it on Omega, her stealth, Never again, Andy. Just never again.
He did well. It's just you get to late game, and Habwa has one goal, and that's hit as many people with the ult as possible and then die. But when people buy 70 forms of Aegis, they don't die.
So with this late game where with the game's going later, instead of 25 minutes, they go to 35 minutes, the picks are obviously going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Do you think that we're going to see maybe some late game builds where they're a little bit safer in the beginning and so that they can snowball to a later game?
It's interesting, though, because I was talking to Aurora, who's going to be doing analysts on the desk with the casters, and he was saying that your core is still critical. It's almost the same importance as it was in the last split or in the last meta. Your mid, your jungler, and your support control the early game. And we kind of thought with, the reduced experience on getting kills early that would kind of slow down. You could play these Nemesis picks, but he's saying it's still as critical. You can just get away with switching out one of them for a hyper carry that doesn't have like strong early game.
Which would you prefer to switch out, Brandon?
I wouldn't play it.
You wouldn't play a hyper carry in any of these roles?
I mean, maybe. I mean, characters like Kali, I could see, but almost every other character right now is dangerous. I think frontline warriors right now are really strong in solo.
Such as Bologna?
Bologna's great. Hercules is decent. Tyr still has some relevancy, especially with Magi's being nerfed.
Yes.
I think Tyr is going to be a very surprise pick.
I actually want to say something about that. At LANs, it seems that
Yes.
Tyr is picked a bit more because of the changes to the latency and to the ping, that you have smaller ping so people are able to...
No training wheels necessary.
Exactly. How do
No.
you think that's going to change it? And both of these teams have experience in LAN, obviously the World Championships of Cloud9, and of course the launch tournament champions, which is
This is actually
Paradigm
awesome.
kind of patched
Yeah.
together.
This is awesome. The 2 biggest tournaments we've ever held, these are the winners of it. And they're facing off for what could be 6th place.
That's right.
That's where the game is right now. Like, that's crazy.
Every single one of these teams has won a tournament.
Yeah?
Every single one of these teams has taken first place at a tournament. But
All 6 of them?
all 6 of them. Paradigm, TSM Core, won launch tournament.
Yeah.
Right?
You have Titan. They took first at EU Regionals.
Right.
You have Fnatic, who have taken first at
They took at the kickoff LAN.
the kickoff LAN.
Wow.
And then North America, TSM Regionals, Cloud9 Worlds,
And AFK, the most
and then
recent LAN.
AFK, the most recent LAN.
It's actually insane.
Well, this is, although maybe not as big as the launch tournament or the World Championships, they are still going to be playing for a lot of money, $170,000 in the prize pool, $50,000 for first place, I believe, and of course bragging rights. If you guys are just joining us right now, we are finishing up the pre-show and we're going to be going to the first set, which is Cloud9 G2A versus Paradigm. Thank you all for joining us.
The path to the Smite World Championships is a long one, and the summer split is just a part of the puzzle. In order to earn the right to play on Smite's biggest stage, teams will have to prove their worth multiple times all the way to January. With one of those chances already in the books, the summer marked the beginning of the second of 3 splits. It would once again be time to focus up as teams got ready for a longer, more competitive split this time around. The action of the summer would begin quickly, but before any games were to be played, an expansion draft was to be held. The SPL looked great during the spring, but with the amount of talent lurking in the shadows, the decision to expand the league to 8 teams per region was an easy one. A short tournament would decide which teams deserved to be brought up to the SPL level and leave the challenger scene behind.
Now with 8 teams per region, we're also expanding the length of the split from 5 weeks to 7 weeks. This is going to breed a lot more competition, especially with these bottom teams getting a lot more experience against the top teams throughout the split. With us only being one more split away from the SWC, we're really starting to see these top teams buckle down. Last season, we saw Titan make their huge run, picking up an analyst and coach, and even now, Cloud9, Fnatic, all these top teams are following the same trend and picking them up.
The results of the expansion would net some familiar faces. North America would be bringing up the ever-popular Team Eager, alongside Legion of Carrots, a team heralded by DJ Pernicus, Pain to Beyond, and some other veterans of the Smite scene. On the European side, teams would be joined by iRapper's Epsilon and the Night's Watch, a team featuring the likes of NQ, a very successful solo laner that would find himself coming out of retirement to play on this roster. With the table set, all that was left were the actual games, and those started off with a bang. Cloud9, a top team that missed the spring finals, would be undefeated for 5 entire weeks, only to be toppled by the new SPL threat, Team Eager. Enemy and Cognitive Gaming would still struggle to find their footing and eventually find themselves at the bottom of the SPL standings. As the split came to a close, 3 teams would be heading to the finals from North America: Team Solo Mid, Cloud9, and the previous split's winners, AFK Gaming.
Finally having the opportunity to come across to the States and cast the SPL has been such a great opportunity for me. Working with the other casters as well as the behind the scenes staff that make all this work on a daily basis, it's been great. Well, EU this season, they had ups and downs. We had teams that didn't do so well as were expected to, and then ones that people expected not to manage to make it to the top 3 actually find themselves there. Top one, for example, Titan. They didn't manage to make it to the spring LAN. But as the game went on and we saw the season unfold, their lane switch that happened between Ataraxia and Comfrey actually worked out well for them, and they exceeded expectations for the most part. Second on the list though, definitely Paradigm, formerly known as Trig Esports. Trig Esports found themselves after the LAN. They didn't do very well there and started to struggle at the start of the season. Good news is though, they did finally find form halfway through and then saw themselves shoot off towards a really decent standpoint as the game went on. My favourite moment of the SPL was definitely the final game of London Conspiracy up against Trig Esports, now known as Paradigm. Those two together, they were fighting in that last game of the season to see who would end up at the LAN. So when you think about a whole season going through, you're always looking at those clutch games.
All 6 teams are ready and waiting. Team Solo Mid, Cloud9, AFK Gaming, Titan, Fnatic, Paradigm. The summer split was a hotbed of emotion, and it's only getting more intense. The split is over, and all that's left is the summer finals.